Once, there was Hulk Hogan. Then, there was Tom Magee. Or it was supposed to be Tom Magee. Now, nobody knows who Tom Magee is, but everyone remembers Hulk Hogan. In the 1980s, it was still real to everyone. Hulkamania was running wild. Beyond Coca-Cola, hamburgers, and bomb shelters, professional wrestling was America's favorite. There was a point when people thought the wrestling ring would eclipse the baseball diamond in the USA. The two behind this were Vincent Kennedy McMahon and Terry Gene Boella, better known as Mr. McMahon and Hulk Hogan. Except, this story is not about them. It is about two Canadians, two then rather unknown wrestlers, who would meet in a WWF ring on the fateful night of October 7th, 1986. The match became a legend. Not that it was supposed to be, or was it even supposed to be seen. The meeting of the hand-picked successor to Hulk Hogan, Tom Magee, and the one-day champ, Bret Hart. The legend of Rochester, New York entered obscurity. There it would remain until very recently. Why is a match between two untested unknowns so important? Because the tape of that match would become notorious in wrestling folklore, as innocuous as one can be in wrestling folklore. A man Vince groomed to be the next champion, and the scrappy grappler's son of the man who trained him. It was a match so amazing, Vince McMahon proclaimed Magee his next champion immediately afterwards. But after that night, the tape of it vanished. The match, paradoxically, was so bad it destroyed Magee's career, and Bret, not Tom, would come out the champion the next decade. Magee was forgotten, as was the tape. The Man of Iron himself, Tom Magee, vanished from the wrestling world with it. Never to be Hogan's successor, it would become the greatest piece of wrestling lost media. For the next 3 decades, people searched endlessly for a copy, but it never turned up. All of its supposed 3 copies vanished, seemingly forever. It became an interesting footnote in the history of WWF, WWE. The company preferred to simply not talk about it. The tape, or Tom. Until a few days ago, the tape was found, but why was it lost to begin with? The legend of the match is also the legend of the nicknamed Man of Iron Tom Magee. To see why Vince McMahon styled an untested star like Magee as the next champion, one just has to look at the then current WWF champion, Hulk Hogan. In WWE, McMahon has infamously favored a certain type of champion. The blonde, buff, strong, all-American alpha male. One that could appeal to all the little Hulkamaniacs and ladies. At that point, it was Hogan, and it would be for nearly the next decade. So why go searching for a replacement then? Hulkamania had just begun in 1984. There was only one issue. A glaring issue. A very bold and glaring issue. A balding one. Hogan's receding hairline. Then entered Tom Magee, a Canadian strongman and martial artist. A masterclass of a man. Vince already knew this was a bench-pressing issue. At the time, he thought Hogan's run was limited. He was quickly in the market for a new main man, someone who could match Hogan's physique, strength, style, and, hopefully, he would have a full head of hair. Come to Tom Magee from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. No, not that guy. This guy. Standing 6 foot 5 inches, weighing 275 pounds, Magee had a body to kill for and a background to match it. A black belt in karate, established in gymnastics, and a world-famous powerlifter, the second-place winner of the 1983 World's Strongest Man competition. Magee had everything Vince wanted, plus a full head of hair. The full package. Magee wrestled briefly in Japan, where he first stepped into the ring against Riki Choshu. After being named 3rd runner-up Rookie of the Year in 1986, WWE contacted him right away. Vince McMahon was grooming Magee for gold. The up-and-comer could squat 860 pounds, bench press 573 pounds, and deadlift 820 pounds, many styling him Mega Man. There was a lot of sizzle, but Magee had yet to prove he had the steak. There was a lot of meat to bite off. He was even trained by one of pro wrestling's greats, Stu Hart. Magee had a major start, but they needed to see if he could prove it. Magee had all the factors. Wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer claimed Magee had the business's greatest combinations of strength and agility at the time, but could he put them together? Vince wanted to see him in a tryout match. Could the Man of Iron be the next Hulkamania? They put him up against one of WWF's best young talents, Bret Hart, the son of Stu Hart. It would lead to the legendary face-off. Bret would have to show Magee had it, that he could draw the attention and the money. Everything was up to Bret in the legendary match. He was not enthused about it, having to lose a match to a complete unknown. Though it was not televised, Bret was disgusted. Though not yet a major star, Hart had a reputation to safeguard. Tom had nothing to lose. Bret had nothing to gain. Vince had to personally ask Bret to do it. The Hitman tells the whole brief, bizarre episode in his autobiography. Only one promise made him go through with it. Vince guaranteed Bret Hart that the match would never air on TV anywhere. That was the important thing. On a cold October night in Rochester, New York, that promise made the legendary Bret Hart, one of WWF's best performers, prove the in-ring total unknown Tom Magee could be the next champion. It would be Tom's greatest match. The tapes rolled and the Hitman made his entrance. In 1986, Tom Magee made his first and only major backflip into a WWE ring. Literally. The crowd was audibly impressed by the Canadian Superman. For the 80s, he had the look, a golden Adonis. In a match, Magee was the good guy and Bret the bad guy. Not that the audience even knew who Tom was. Bret Hart had asked Magee for just 3 things he could do before the match. 3 moves he could pull off to make him look good. Hart designed the match around those 3 things. It was a hell of a show. By all accounts, Tom Magee looked like a pro. Hart swallowed his pride to applause, though it was not for him. Backstage, Vince McMahon is reported to have exclaimed, "That's my next champion." He enthusiastically greeted Magee and told the Man of Iron all about his big plans. It was the best, worst match ever seen, only to be fully appreciated in retrospect. Bret Hart had put on one hell of a match, but besides those in attendance, few would see it. Vince kept true to his promise. That match never aired. Only one master copy of the tape was kept by WWF, and a copy given to Bret. The problem? Bret turned out to be the real winner of that match, not Tom. He had carried the whole thing. That flawless performance, all Bret Hart. Tom Magee could just not wrestle. Sure, he was untrained, but he would never again put on such a solid performance. Even when him and Bret met again in the May of 1989 in La Crosse, Wisconsin, Magee was not a wrestler. He could never be one. Magee was a bust. He could not be the man. WWF signed him with plans, but nothing came of them. They kept the Canadian candidate off TV and had him perform in C-list venues to train. He was impressive looking, but even when trained by WWF's Terry Gibbs, he could not cut it. He did not have it. His ring work was poor, his acting was pitiful, and his promos bland and boring. All sizzle, no steak. Without Bret Hart, Magee flopped both in and out of the ring. Vince slowly lost interest. He became just another failed WWF project, though he lingered on in the company until 1990. After, Magee only ever had one televised match on the brand, and he was never champ, never to match Hulk Hogan. Vince moved on to his next project, a man by the name of James Hellwig, the soon-to-be Ultimate Warrior. When Magee exited the ring by the 90s, the legend went with him. That match became a legend, the greatest performance of his wrestling career. The problem was, nobody had a copy. Only 3 were believed to have existed. The Master, owned by WWF/WWE, the copy given to Bret, and a mysterious third one supposedly circulated somewhere. The Master ended up in WWE archives, as all their recorded material does for business and legal reasons, but it was never published. To this day, it is hidden among the rest of WWE's 125,000 tapes, either in Stamford, Connecticut, or in a vault deep in the Catskill Mountains in New York. Though WWE will not tell you that. When asked, WWE has always stated they have no copy. Was it destroyed, hidden, misfiled, or does Mr. McMahon still maintain his promise to Bret Hart that the match will never be televised? So what explanation is the most likely? WWE must have a copy for contract purposes. While the WWE archive has some gaps, we know the match was recorded and most third-party sources believe there is a copy in there. My personal theory is that it is mislabeled. In his autobiography, Bret Hart spells Magee as McGee, G-H-E-E, and when the tape resurfaced, it was marked with this exact same misspelling. A simple mistake WWE could have also made. A clerical error could have hidden any copy from prying eyes. Maybe the chairman of WWE has simply kept his promise? Despite all his and Bret Hart's bad blood, the tape will never circulate. It is doubtful WWE actually destroyed the copy. Would Vince McMahon be crazy enough to keep a promise for so long? Yes. Yes, he would. If the tape is truly on lockdown, that would put it among some of WWE's most notorious material, putting it in the same category of footage like the unfortunate on-camera death of Owen Hart. And the third copy? Good question. The only public copy of the tape known is owned by pro wrestling's impresario of journalism, Dave Meltzer, though he acquired it years after the actual match. Uncle Dave has the only confirmed copy. Keyword here is had. He can no longer find his. It currently sits in limbo among his massive tape collection. I will remind you this is the man who has also been obsessively recording wrestling since the 80s. And no other copy has ever surfaced in tape trading circles. Bret's copy? We will get to that one. As is obvious with any obscure material, people immediately went in search of this wrestling lost media. Not that it was ever truly lost. Wrestling fans are just notoriously obsessive. Every few years, the notorious match would be brought back up. And people wanted it. The best worst match. New and old fans have sought this hidden gem. There are forum posts as old as 2004 talking about it. There are far older correspondences somewhere too, one can assume. People have been searching for Tom Magee vs. Bret Hart since fans first traded tapes over the mail. Plenty have mailed and asked WWE directly. They, though, are hesitant to talk about it, only sparing it a few jokes in some of their unreleased matches compilations. But it has never appeared on any of them, and no one on the inside has ever leaked it. The growth of the internet and social media have only made it more famous as well. In an age where fans can easily acquire anything, this single match sticks out like a sore thumb. In every list and discussion of wrestling's biggest bombs or lost matches, Tom Magee always sits near the top, a forgotten figure who now works at Gold's Gym in California. New attention was only drawn to it in 2016 on the Pro Wrestling Fringe podcast, indie wrestler Colt Cabana's podcast on odd insider stories, where I first heard about it, and he has uploaded the full thing for everyone to hear now. It is the best compilation of information on the match. The episode hand-picked discusses Magee, the match, and Meltzer's take on the whole mystery. Colt has also offered a very interesting clue. Even when a WWE trainee, WWE refused to give him the match. They provided him everyone he asked for, except that one. Meltzer claims the match was that good too, enough to convince everyone Magee was the next Hogan, even him. 5 stars in the Tokyo Dome level. Despite the new attention, the discussion never turned anything up. It seemed it would remain a myth, until March 26, 2019, at Mary Kayfabe tweets this. A picture with a tape labeled 09/19/89, Bret v. Tom Magee. Notice the misspelling, right as I started this video. It was among the tapes Bret Hart's assistant had given to her years ago to digitize. Though people were doubtful at first, due to the name and date, it appears to be the match. Mary Kate tweeted screen caps and a short clip to prove it, the ones I've been using. By all regards, it seems to be the match. The first match. Nobody is sure if the second one was even recorded, but this was it. WWE personnel even reached out to confirm it. The legendary Bret Hart v. Tom Magee. After more than 30 years of looking, it just turned up. Right before WrestleMania 2. Kinda suspicious. Not that Mary Kate can release the full thing. 2 WWE officials have even warned her about it. There are plenty of legal ramifications, even for a match that was never aired. According to them, WWE actually did lose their copy of the match. Supposedly. That means Bret's copy is the only copy. If they were telling the truth, if WWE releases the match, it will confirm or deny whether or not Vince simply was keeping his promise. Not that I think Bret Hart even cares anymore. Nobody remembers Tom Magee or the match now except of the obsessive few. Bret is a jorts guy now. If the full thing ever sees the light of day, will it be worth it? Besides showing how skilled Bret Hart was, what will it do? It cannot revive the long-dead legacy of Tom Magee. His fame never eclipsed Hogan's, and he was totally overshadowed by the Ultimate Warrior. Was it only obscurity that brought this match fame, like many other things across modern culture? Good or bad, Magee vs. Hart will always be the mythical best-worst match never meant to be seen.